What's up, Frill Nation? Welcome to the first episode of OK Bloomer, a sporadic YouTube series intended for documenting the pop culture history of Lolita fashion and also its internet culture history. I am your host, Dee. I have been interested in Lolita fashion since around 2003-2004. I've been involved in the online communities going back to EGL and LiveJournal in one way or another, although now I, of course, keep it focused around Facebook and the Discord channels. If you want a video giving you a long and thorough explanation of Lolita fashion, what it is, how to wear it, where to buy it, this is not that video. There's 1,000 other videos on YouTube that will help you with that. This video will assume you already know about Lolita fashion and that you're just curious about old drama, old inside jokes, highlighting various companies or pop culture that focus on the Lolita aesthetic, and even celebrities and icons of the fashion. So let's go ahead and get started. This episode, as the title says, focuses on one of the first well-known Western indie brands, In The Starlight. From looking on the Wayback Machine and also looking at old memories and tagged posts on EGL via LiveJournal, In The Starlight launched in August of 2003, with their goal being to offer a wide range of EGL items comparable to Baby the Stars Shine Bright, Angelic Pretty, and others. It was run by two sisters, Mara and Leah, with Mara doing the majority of the sewing work and Leah doing the technicals such as running the website and answering customer service emails. In the Starlight was a big deal, and you should know why. Back in 2003-2004, official brand pieces were incredibly difficult to get a hold of. Very few brands shipped overseas or took overseas payments, and generally there were no English version pages, so you either had to know Japanese or you had to use translating services to actually be able to read what you were shopping for. A lot of people used Babelfish on Alta Vista, and if you remember those two things, you're old. I'm sorry. It was the only translating service that existed. You would have to plug in the website link and have it translate from there, which would often botch the HTML, but it would at least be legible. We did not have auto-translate via Google Chrome. It was kind of rough. Meta actually did have an English site as early as 2003, as well as an international shopping cart. And that's because Meta is the best brand, but that's for a future video. A lot of girls did resort to making their own items at first, and we didn't always have the best access to quality fabric, decent lace, and a lot of people just didn't really know how to sew very well. Many of them were cosplayers that were coming over, sort of adapting to the fashion from that, and still giving it that sort of cosplay spin. Instead of focusing on quality as a wearable garment, I think the focus was often more on completing a garment that could be worn. There is a difference there, I promise. It's just hard to describe. Not that there's anything wrong with being a cosplayer, of course, because I think there is a lot of overlap between those who are in Lolita fashion and those who do cosplay. A lot of people, that's how they find out about Lolita fashion is through doing cosplay and seeing it at anime conventions, but there is definitely a stark difference between making a costume that's meant to be worn maybe once or twice casually and an actual constructed garment that's meant for daily wear and actual use as everyday clothing, as opposed to for one setting and display. But when In The Starlight launched, it was a godsend. Of course, when you look back at what few pictures I can find on the Wayback Machine now, it's a miracle that anyone ever stuck with the fashion. Looking back, they weren't the greatest quality. A lot of the complaints was that the material was somewhat thin. They were willing, however, to go and get you higher quality lace and fabric as asked, but a lot of it was quite thin. I believe a lot of what they were using was just sort of symphony broadcloth. I could be very wrong on that, but they weren't using very high quality lace either. And there was still the issue of, were they using enough fabric? But, it was very affordable. It was easy to get, and they did custom orders both in terms of size and design, and their goal was to keep a constant stock of basics available at all times. So they did things like petticoats, which was sort of their big ticket item. That was the thing that everyone was always looking for. It was very hard to find quality petticoats that actually fit the aesthetic. It still is kind of hard in my opinion, but it's gotten a lot easier. They also had bloomers, headpieces, blouses, and skirts. For some reason on the website, they keep referring to EGL Costumes. And I think, again, that that's a holdover because they were originally cosplayers. However, when they did launch, they were wildly popular, and they did really well, especially because of, as mentioned, the petticoats and the fact that they would do custom sizing and other custom options for all customers. Even as Japanese brands opened up to shipping overseas, people did not want to deal with paying customs or extra taxes, and they still preferred In The Starlight because they just felt more comfortable and it was more affordable. Leah handled a lot of the customer service emails and requests, and Mara was the primary seamstress, but I believe Leah did help her a lot with sewing. I know that it was really hard what they were doing because there was just two people running this business and hand making everything, drafting patterns that they needed from scratch. And, you know, there was never controversy or big drama, but it was a business and not everyone was always 100% happy. Sometimes people would complain. The most common complaint was that their petticoats would flatten out pretty quick, that they weren't always made of enough layers of tulle and they would lose their fullness out over time with wear. For a lot of people, the solution was to hang them upside down and also possibly use a fabric stiffening solution spray and spray the petticoat while it was hanging upside down to sort of reinvigorate all of that material. With all of this, if a customer approached In The Starlight with a complaint or a concern if something didn't turn out how they envisioned, they would make it right. They were happy to do exchanges or returns and remake items that needed fixed. But again, it was two people running this one website for about 6 years, which is a huge ask. Now again, they would close the store down for a while to do a site redesign because it was Leah doing it all herself. You didn't really have a lot of websites with built-in templates like Squarespace or Wix. You sort of had to do it all yourself from scratch, and Mara needed time to catch up with what she was doing. So she needed time to fill orders, and also, you know, they were human beings. They needed a break now and again, too. The blue star design, though, is probably the one I remember the most. I think that's the look that they stuck with the longest, besides their original simple pink design. They ran for about 6 years, and eventually they just had too much going on. Leah was trying to finish her master's degree, and so finally they made the decision in early 2010, I believe it was. They decided to temporarily close the store. They gave people time to buy what they could of what was pre-made, and the plan was to reopen on Etsy a little bit later in that year with just Mara to handle running the shop and to continue being able to offer affordable handmade pieces. And I think that they picked Etsy because then they wouldn't have to worry about maintaining a website, doing the coding, maintaining a shopping cart, you know, worrying about all of the nitty-gritty of running an online business, all of that day-to-day stuff besides actually producing the product. They also apparently decided to rename the shop from Starlight with a GH to Starlight with an E. Not sure what the decision was there. Maybe they couldn't get the other name. Maybe someone already had it on Etsy. I do not know. But they didn't reopen on Etsy until about 2011. And then they did close again in 2012 for a little bit. And I think that this was kind of what led to them dropping off in popularity. That and also the fact that brand was getting a lot more accessible. A lot of shops were opening up even overseas locations. I don't have the exact date of when Baby opened in California, but I believe it might have been around that time. Also, there was a booming secondhand market. It was just getting easier and easier to get brand, and it was getting quite affordable. Maybe not to the point where In The Starlight was, but the quality was there as well, which I think was kind of one of the big issues. Once you get that first brand piece and compare it to something handmade, whether it's In The Starlight or your own, you start to kind of see what things you could have done differently and the differences and why brand commands the price it does. So yeah, after a while, they did sort of start to fade from popularity. As I was checking on Etsy to see if they even still existed, they are currently open, although they do not have any petticoats available. I love that they're still making the petticoats, but because of everything that's going on, they have temporarily suspended those petticoats because they can't get their material in. As a seamstress myself, that is also something I've been struggling with. Their skirts, it looks like Mara has really stepped up her game as a seamstress, so I'm very proud of her. It looks like she's really gotten good in terms of finishing her pieces, getting decent quality fabrics and materials. But Unfortunately, I'm not sure how popular they still are. It looks like they've got a lot of favorites for their store and a lot of visitors, a lot of good reviews, which does my heart good. But yeah, there's a lot more competition in the market, especially for US-based designers. But for about 6 years, In The Starlight was a powerhouse. There were other seamstresses. I believe there was Super Tech, who I think was also Miss Megan Maud, but In The Starlight was sort of the one that kicked everything off in the US. It made Lolita fashion attainable for a lot of young women, and it really helped fuel the beginning of a community that has spanned over 15 years. I don't think we would be in the same spot that we were before without In The Starlight having taken that first jump. And I don't think there would be as many seamstresses with their own shops without it, because seeing their success and, seeing how high the market demand was what kind of pushed a lot of people over the edge into saying, yes, I can do this, I can handle this, and I can, be successful. And so to that, I really still respect Leah and Mara for what they did. They took the dream of wearing Lolita fashion and they made it a reality for a lot of young women. Even if it wasn't the reality that we have now, it was still a start. And it's still what got a lot of people to sink their claws into this hobby as a whole. I hope you enjoyed this stroll down memory lane with me. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. Hoping to upload twice a month. I do have a lot of great topics I'd like to cover. I have a list going. If there's something that you want to know more about, please leave a comment below and let me know. I do also, of course, have a Patreon called OK Bloomer, where you can subscribe. Higher tier patrons can actually vote on topics for the next video. Overall, more or less, please stay safe, especially right now. Wash your hands, avoid going out in public, maintain social distance, and, take care. And be fashionable, and I will see you next time. I just love these little floating broken image link icons. It just feels right, man.